What's good, YouTube? I am the Sophisticated Ape. Today, we are going to look at the controversial topic of weather modification. A few weeks back, we had some severe weather and hurricane storms hit Florida and the southeast of the U.S. It became a big topic and was even covered by outlets like Tim Pool, and they discussed a little bit about the weather modification. So we're going to dive in a little bit here today. If you told me weather modification existed like 10 years ago, I would say sci-fi, tinfoil hat stuff, you know what I mean? So we're going to take a look at the earliest known projects of Project Cirrus from 1947 and look at today's implications as well. Let's dive in. Okay, diving in here, we take a look at the Atlantic Oceanographic and Meteorological Laboratory at U.S. Department of Commerce. So here basically talks about the date it happened. Then here talks about in the previous year, Vincent Schaefer at GE Labs discovers introducing dry ice into the atmosphere would cause reactions to alter clouds and precipitation. GE Labs worked with the military, the Navy, the Army, and more specifically the Air Force, using military aircraft to seed clouds and fog with dry ice and see what happens. Shortly after, they made plans to do a hurricane seeding experiment. So below here it talks about the altitudes and such. It gives details. Of the the amount of dry ice that was used, dropping 80 pounds, then another 2 mass droppings of 50 pounds each. Shows the routes they took. So what happened was the hurricane unexpectedly changed its course, leading to public and legal backlash despite natural explanations for the storm's behavior. The next day, they were surprised to see the storm had turned and strengthened, putting the storm in a different location than expected and hitting Savannah, Georgia, and actually taking a life, causing $2 million at the time in damage. The public was outraged, as I mentioned, after the hurricane, and GE Labs head doctor said he was 99% sure the experiment was the cause of the strengthening and turning of the hurricane. So the Weather Bureau looked for evidence of hurricanes that could turn like this and published similar cases, and the lawsuit threats eventually died down. After this, there's more talk about other early experiments with Project Storm Theory. Basically, the goal here was to weaken hurricanes by seeding with silver iodide to stimulate convection and potentially reduce wind speeds. Seeding was aimed at clouds outside the eye wall to form a new ring of clouds that could weaken the storm's core. But the results showed wind speed reductions in some cases. Results were inconclusive, basically, but these were later attributed to natural storm processes rather than seeding effects. So, good link here. I recommend the read. All the links are in the description. But yeah, that's the Project Cirrus and covers a little bit of storm theory in this link here. So, how does cloud seeding work? It's a weather modification technique that releases particles in the clouds to increase the likelihood of rain or snow. You introduce the particles, cause the molecules to freeze, then they grow into snowflakes and become heavy enough to fall, and then will either stay as snow or turn into rain, I guess, based off of the temperatures. But cloud seeding equipment, looks like there's a ground-based form. So a remote-based generator, ground generator, releases seeding material into the atmosphere and is carried by winds. moving up and over a mountain where it then reaches the cloud base to begin ice formation. This system is operated remotely during active storms. They also use aircraft. They release the silver iodide into the clouds. Particles reach the targeted cloud. The silver iodide aids in formation of ice crystals. The ice crystals become large enough to fall and create snow, or rain again, I guess, if we're talking about, if it's warm enough to melt the snow. Yeah, so pretty interesting there. Let's take a look at an animation.
When super cold water vapor condenses, clouds form when super cold water vapor condenses and freezes onto particles such as dust, ash, and other ice particles, forming what are called ice nuclei. Since water vapor cannot form into ice nuclei until about -40 degrees Celsius, water molecules use these solids or seeds to form into ice at much lower temperatures. Cloud seeding takes advantage of this property of super cold water vapor, as it essentially adds more solids into the cloud for the super cold water vapor to condense and turn into ice. Clouds form.
Yeah, so I guess once it turns into ice, that's where it will precipitate. Okay, and then we have here just a basic search for cloud seeding. Basically, today the UAE uses cloud seeding for rainfall enhancement. The United Arab Emirates has been using cloud seeding since the 1990s to increase rainfall and address water shortages. So, yeah, I mean, this is well known, publicly known. Dubai, I believe, on schedule at least once a month, does cloud seeding to produce rainfall. So the main goal is to improve the water security and reduce reliance on desalination stations, where if you're not familiar with desalination, basically the whole ocean is full of salt, as we know. Seawater is full of salt. So what they do is they use a plant, big plant, and they can actually desalinate water. So they can use ocean water. They just have to take the salt out of it. But a simple Google search shows all of this here. The UAE's cloud seeding program includes a weather radar network, over 60 weather stations, 6 aircraft for cloud seeding operations, including a specialized aircraft that uses natural salts. I guess it's had a pretty positive impact in those areas where it was tough to build. It's tough to put a city in there. So this is not an unheard of practice. So it gets pretty interesting here. And then right here you have just a basic Wikipedia search. Talks quite a bit about cloud seeding, or weather modification, actually. There were even there are experiments by many governments, even in Thailand, and experiments go all the way back to the mid 20th century. You got them in the 1950s. Cloud seeding covers Project Cirrus here. Talks about how the UAE uses it here again. Talks about how it can be used for storm prevention. Even talks of hurricane modification. Here we go. It even covers Operation Popeye, which was pretty well known. They basically used the technology to try to strengthen the typhoons, the monsoons, basically disrupt the tactical logistics of the Vietnamese army. What's interesting is that brought about the whole Environmental Modification Convention, which is a treaty from the 70s to a formal treaty to not use weather modification for any hostile use. No way to use it to attack someone. You can't use it to create lightning strikes or anything like that. So there is actually a world treaty about not using it. So goes into even more detail down here. Yeah, so good read here. Link will be in the description again as well. It even covers the current conspiracy theories. So that, yeah, there's a lot of conspiracy theories right now. Just because you call something a conspiracy theory doesn't mean that it's not true. Doesn't mean it's been dismissed. It's just something that, something that could be going on. Some of them are a little out there. It may not be true, but not always just because something sounds crazy doesn't mean it's not true. We've definitely seen conspiracy theories that have been proven in the past. So but again, doesn't mean that it is true either. The only thing I ever know is that basically I objectively almost know nothing. I don't know shit. So so here we go. And we'll keep diving in here. And pretty interesting here. We've got basically intelligent systems for weather modification programs. A Google patent. If you check it out, there's a lot of different. There's other patents out there for weather modification systems. There's talk of using radar for sensors and other ground-based seeding methods. Lots of interesting stuff here. So that's another good read for us here. Let's check this out as well. I'm not an inventor. A lot of reading here, so we're not going to cover all this in this video. They got plenty of drawings, schematics, and whatnot. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff when you really dive deep into this. It's amazing that most people think you're crazy if you even had mentioned that this exists. And again, it's actually used pretty mainstream. Dubai uses it publicly. Once a month they do cloud seeding, as I mentioned. So, and here we have another interesting link, basically a research paper presented to the Air Force. It's from 1996, but goes into a lot of details here. Basically, the title, Weather is a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. So it's another little longer read than what we want for this format of a video, but goes into depth of how to basically use it for supremacy. So pretty damn interesting. Really covers a lot of stuff where you would use it as a military application. Talks about the global weather network. Goes into exploitation of near space for space control. So talks about really using the near space environment for dominance to basically wipe out their detection systems, an enemy's detection systems, and their communications and things like that with by dominating the weather from the near space application. So another good one here. Check this out. I'll put this in the link as well. Just a research paper though, so you know, a lot of this stuff just take with a grain of salt. But yep, moving on. Okay, and here we take a look at military.com. We've got a link here. Interesting video posted actually in 2013, it looks like. So it looks like some sort of Senate hearing committee type video here. So let's dive into this as well.
The Los Angeles Times on April 21st, you said that you told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest. Would you explain what you were trying to say?
Well, what I was trying to say is exactly what I said. There is weather control techniques. We have a complete package on that, which I did not bring, but I certainly will see to it that it is brought in for the record. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only doesn't exist, but that we even utilize it as far back as the Vietnam War. You might want to touch base on Senator Pell.
I just want to repeat before you turn it.
So yes, but we do have all that information.
You were saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the quote New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans
Worldwide.
millions of Americans and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, when if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. But the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather awards, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the Senator's own statement. So yes, we do stand by that.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
This movie
So-
did not start out so.
So pretty interesting stuff here. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit terrifying if you think that somebody might be using that as weapons on populations. So they talk about how the HR 2977 doesn't really apply to how the weapon might be used in some cases based on the height that it describes, 60 kilometers above, and other defining factors that where you get into semantics. So defense purposes, contrails versus chemtrails, et cetera. So yep, somewhat alarming there when you think about the possibilities. And here we are with another link that is pretty interesting. It touches on several controversial and technical aspects regarding weather modification and geophysical warfare. So yeah, pretty disturbing if you get into this one as well. So, a lot of suggestions these technologies could be used for military purposes, potentially covered up under the guise of natural phenomena like global warming or just simple natural disasters. Lots of historical context. Discussion begins with historical examples of weather manipulation experiments such as Project SEAL during World War II, where British and American scientists tested the generation of tsunamis with underwater bomb explosions. Declassification of these projects in the late 90s brought attention to the possibility of weaponizing weather, scientific exploration, and military interest. Goes on, talks about technological advances, the high-frequency active auroral research program, known as HARP in Alaska, which uses ionospheric heaters to potentially manipulate weather or even induce earthquakes by creating plasma in the ionosphere or through electromagnetic waves. There's a mention of HARP's capabilities potentially being used for military purposes, including communication with submarines, weather modification, or creating pathways for energy deposition anywhere on Earth. Brings up international concerns. Here's the stuff. Weather treaties as well. Yeah, so it goes into great detail here. So, yeah, the article hints at weather or geophysical events being used strategically or politically for gain, etc., etc. So, kind of brings it outside of the realm of sci-fi and into the world of actual possibility. So, yeah, long read here, sort of, but check this out. It will also be in the description. As mentioned multiple times in the video here, we've talked about the Environmental Modification Convention, NMOD, formerly the Convention on the Prohibition of Military or Any Other Hostile Use of Environmental Modification Techniques. Nice read here, not too long, a little bit shorter than most, but yeah, it brings up climate change and so forth. So yeah, we do have a world treaty drafted the end of 1976, the year of our bicentennial. And it was signed in 1977 in Geneva, Switzerland. So, pretty cool, pretty interesting stuff here. So, with what we just covered, it's pretty interesting. There's lots of people out there thinking lots of crazy stuff, but, I encourage everyone, use critical thinking about what's technically possible versus what's speculated. Again, the only thing I know is I don't know, so it's pretty interesting. Weather modification presents many fascinating possibilities. So let's keep our discussions grounded in science and ethics, but I don't think anybody that has that type of power, we don't know exactly what's out there. The military's generally several decades ahead of what's publicly available or public knowledge. Things get declassified decades and decades later. So, yeah, it's it kind of goes both ways. But looking at a post here, this is an interesting video that covers a lot of things that are in relation to this topic.
Lasers? Really? To change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. Go ahead.
Well, this is fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been...
Was alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're digging into the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands in ugly mumbo-jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam. Firing trillion-watt lasers, we rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions. And these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Laser?
So that's pretty interesting and alarming at the same time. But yeah, that kind of references what was in some of those other articles talking about the ionosphere and HAARP. And yeah, so Marjorie Taylor Greene did bring this up. Do I think that they used weather modification to attack political opponents in the red areas? I'm not sure. I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't be surprised, but I also doubt it. So again, the only thing I know is I don't know. And I'll say that over and over. You'll see me saying that in all types of videos. But yeah, pretty fun topic. Fun if you like being terrified of things. But so it gets interesting. Lots of people are talking about it. A lot of people are asking for details on what's capable here. This is what was posted here. Oh, yeah, we got some more links here. Looks like some of the links I used. Other posts mentioned here on X, where meteorologists talking about weather and weather engineering or modification. Meteorologists in general have no idea when the cloud seeding happens. No data is ever shared with them. So yeah, and this talks about how they talk about Project Sirius, Operation Popeye. So I'm not sure. Do meteorologists in some cases get notified of things like this? Yeah, and there's people like Bill Gates that are looking at some pretty gigantic geoengineering projects. I don't think we should play with, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. This guy even says when there's a fire, the firefighters right away suspect foul play and only rule it out after a thorough investigation. So, since there's this technology and there's things happening, a lot of people point the finger and think that those in control are the ones with a hand on a button that has a lever, that those in control have that lever to control the weather. So, yeah. And there you have it. I am sure there's a lot more to cover with so many possibilities. We could probably go on and on. So with all that said, what do you guys think? Do you think weather modification is being used as a weapon? Do you think the elites would do something like that, the so-called powers that be? Let's keep the discussions grounded and respectful. Thanks everyone for exploring this cloudy topic with me. Drop a like, comment, and subscribe. I am the Sophisticated Ape, Sleek Simeon on X. All of my links for the videos will be posted in the description along with all the other platform links. And thanks for your time today.